everyone. Yes.
Good morning, students. My name is Brandy Fulgham. I am a career specialist in the Career and Technical Education Department at the School District of Lee County. And today we have a very special guest that's going to be sharing about financial literacy. So this presentation is a collaborative effort between FGCU, CFA Society Naples, and the School District of Lee County. So I will go ahead and pass it over to Dr. Amelia Beal, and she's going to give a brief introduction and go ahead and go into her presentation.
Hello, I'm happy to see you. I'm Dr. Beal. I'm the chair of the Department of Economics and Finance at FGCU. Raise your hand if you've ever been to FGCU. Has anyone been to FGCU? No? Maybe you should come visit us. Oh, one of you have. Okay.
No. Yes. A couple have. Okay.
Yeah, so regularly I teach economics here at FGCU and schedule classes, but today we're going to talk about personal finance. And so I'm really excited about this. So I can't, and I'll leave my presentation like this, but so finance, they say, is important for everyone. And so it's just money, right? It's money and the way that you use money. Did anyone spend any money today? Did you buy anything yet today? Not yet.
You spend money? No, we don't spend money.
You don't spend money. Usually, my student, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, save money. Yeah, we need money.
So finance is all about money, and there are different ways to think about it and how it touches your life. Of course, lack of money touches your life, and having money to spend also touches your life. But finance is just about the way that we think about money and the way we use money. And so if you go to, raise your hand if your parents usually pay for things with credit cards or debit cards. Yes. Okay, me too. Raise your hand if your parents usually pay for things with cash. Yeah, okay, both are examples of finance. And the newer version, which we're calling FinTech, this is really how finance has been integrated with technology. And so if you go get McDonald's and pay with a credit card, which is how I always pay, then McDonald's doesn't really even see that money until after you've already eaten the sandwich and left. So that, I think that's kind of interesting. And this is a new, pretty hot field in finance, this idea of finance and technology. Raise your hand if you like technology. Do you like technology? Some people like technology. Raise your hand if you hate technology. No. Okay, so anyway, we're going to think next about banking and the ways in which we can use money. So when I was your age, we couldn't bank without going to a bank, without talking to a teller. Can you bank without going to a bank, without talking to a teller now? Do you know? So you can, you can. My husband regularly takes pictures of his checks and just uploads them via his phone. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a paycheck and jobs. Raise your hand if you've ever had a paycheck. Have you ever worked? A few of you have worked. Okay, so you've had a paycheck. You've had a paycheck. What did you do with the paycheck? Did you deposit it in a bank, or did you?
Yeah.
Say that again.
Could you please repeat the question, Lisa?
Oh, what did you do with the check? Did you deposit it in a bank, or did you just cash it?
I deposited in the bank.
In your bank, yeah, in your bank. Okay. So, and so we often interact with banks in this way. And imagine you were making $36,000 a year, and you had 2 paychecks each month, that were $1,500 together for the paycheck. And so I remember when I first started working, I thought that meant, you know, based on my allowance from when I was a kid, I thought that meant I had $1,500 to spend. But then I realized quickly and sadly that meant I had a lot less than $1,500 to spend. And so after you cover things like medical coverage and dental care, eye care, like a lot of these things, no longer are you really thinking about $1,500, but something more like half that, which can be a little bit sad, I think. Raise your hand if you've ever gotten a check and been like, oh my gosh, this is a lot less than I thought. Yeah, so anyway, so taxes are an important piece, and all of these other things that we have to pay for, like medical coverage and dental care. And so it's important then to be able to build a budget for the month, to think about, okay, we have to spend some money on. Actually, let me just ask you, what do we have to spend money on? Well, I guess if you're young like you probably don't have to spend much money on anything. But if you're old like me, then you have to spend money on rent or some sort of or your mortgage, on food, car insurance, gas. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. What was that?
What do you spend money on, Karina? Could you repeat, please?
Well, first of all, when I had my first job, I bought my computer, my dog, and what was the other thing? I forgot. Your mom.
A gift for your mom.
Gifts for my mom, cousins.
Oh, that's so sweet. That's so sweet. Aw. So you already had your necessities paid for, and so then you use this other category to really think about your mom. That's so sweet. I hope my daughter does that when she's your age. We have lots of things that we have to budget and spend money on, and so even though, at least for me, when I first started my first job as an adult, I thought, oh, I have all this money. And then after I paid my bills, I was a little sad to see that the remaining balance looked something like this, $165. And you know, that I could just save. I could go to the mall, but it's probably smarter if I save it. And so if you're going to save this money, then you have to think about, or we have to think about, well, what's the best way to save it? And so we first of all want to, the most important thing is to think about what if, like, are we going to get our money back? Does anyone know someone who is like really worried about banking at a bank? They're worried they're not going to get their money back. Do you know anyone like that? So I know some people like this, and I always try to discourage them from that. So if you bank at a place that has that is FDIC insured. Oh, you can't see my PowerPoint anymore, can you? Is it better now? I apologize. Okay, yell at me if I do something wrong.
Yeah.
So if you bank at a place that's FDIC insured, then you can put in a bunch of money, and as long as it's not over $250,000, then you're guaranteed to get it back. Even if the bank runs out of money, the federal government will give them that money or give you your money back. And so I meet a lot of people who are like, oh, the bank's gonna mess up my money. And that's just not true, unless you're trying to put away like $500,000. Then you might have to worry about it to the extent that you get over $250,000. I've never had that problem. Most middle-class Americans don't have that problem. So a bank is a safe place for your money. I would argue that it's a little bit safer than keeping it at home. One of our friends who is nervous about banking, they came to our house and they're like, oh, I'm gonna hide my money in your instant mashed potatoes box. And they put like $13,000 in my instant mashed potatoes box. And I was like having a heart attack. I was like, please just take it to the bank. It's much safer. So anyway, I think you should go to the bank if you can. And at the bank, you could get a checking account. And checking accounts are really easy to get your money out, put your money in, but they usually don't earn interest. you could have a savings account. And this is a way where you can earn some interest on your money. Does anyone know what interest is? So interest is when you put your money in the bank, like if you put your money in the bank $100 and you were going to earn just 1% interest, then if you left it in the bank the whole year, at the end of that year, you would have $101. And so we want to earn interest on our deposits. A money market account is essentially a hybrid between checking and savings. A CD, if you're interested in one of those, they usually have a little bit higher interest rates, but it's harder to get your money out. So you can put $100 in, maybe at the end of the year, they promise you 105 with a 5% interest rate, but you can't take it out before that year. So anyway, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the time value of money. Oh, I really wanted to put this up like this. Here we go. So which is worth more, $1 today or $1 promised tomorrow? Which would you rather have?
$1 today.
Me too. I would rather have $1 today too. Yeah. And why is that? Well, if I promise you $1 tomorrow, could I kind of mess that up, do you think? I might mess that up. So I might not receive the $1 promised in the future. And so that's why you really want $1 today. And also you could put away that $1 today, and then next year it will be more than $1. And so you can earn some interest, which we already talked about. So there's this formula to express this in a more math way. Raise your hand if you like math. A little. Raise your hand if you hate math. Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. No. Very much.
I love
No.
math.
Yes. No. Yes. No.
Sometimes.
Yes. No. Yes. No.
Some lovers and some haters. I think either way, you want to figure it out enough to be able to manage your money and make sure you're not getting ripped off. So you want to know that you'd rather have $1 today rather than $1 tomorrow. So there's this idea that's really important in finance called the time value of money. Again, we'd rather have $1 today. We can invest it and it'll be more than $1 tomorrow. And so this future value, this is referring to the amount that the money will grow to. So if I have $100, I put it in a savings account, the savings account has 1% interest. So then after a year, I'll have $101. The future value is what? The 100 or the 101? It's the 101. So if you were to invest $100 in a savings account that pays 10%, how much would you have in 1 year? You can just leave the mic on in the classroom if you want to.
Thank you. It's just that we're having technical difficulties with the volume.
Oh no.
It's only on the computer, so I'm using the microphone. I'm trying to figure it out. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry. Technical difficulties are frustrating. Does anyone know if you can you hear me? All right. So anyway, I'll just keep talking. If you invest $100 in savings, then next year you're going to have 10 extra dollars, or a total of $110. So there's this formula that they use a lot in finance to show the future value right here. The present value, that's the one we started with. So that's the $100. So if you think you're going to receive 110 in 1 year after you put it in a savings account that has 10% interest, then there's this formula that seems complicated, but it's the thing we already said, that our present value, the amount we initially put into the bank, was $100. Any questions so far? All right, so we'll talk about stocks next. Have you heard of a stock? What is a stock? Oh, I see some.
Stocky.
Mine, your like stuff.
Stocky cans,
Or
you know,
Joey's dog.
that kind of stuff, or like the different kind of
The
stuff.
stock market.
Like
I
in-
know about it, but I know nothing about it.
Okay, stock like in the stock market. So here's the idea. So suppose there's a company and they need to raise some money. They want to do something new. Like if you've seen, have you seen Shark Tank?
What about
Okay, so where these inventors, they pitch their idea, they try to get some money. And so they're trying to get funding from bigwigs, right? But if you, and so then those bigwigs will own a piece of their company. So something similar happens in the stock market where if you wanted to buy, for example, I don't know, Coca-Cola stock, then once you buy it, you own a tiny piece of Coca-Cola. And so then once you own this stock, you really want Coca-Cola to do well, because if they do well, then what happens to the value of your stock? Would it go up or down? It would go up. And so that would be really great for you because you'd be better off. And it's good for Coca-Cola because they can use the money that you invested to expand or improve their business in some way. So that's what a stock is. It's when you own it's a little piece of a company that a person can own. And so again, Coca-Cola might do this to raise money. And investors, or like people, we would buy that because we also want to make money, right? So we would want to buy stock in companies that we think are going to do really, really well. Because if they do really, really well, the stock that I own becomes more valuable. And so I can sell it for a higher price and make a profit or capital gain. Also, Coca-Cola might give me dividends, in which case they say, oh, look, we made a lot of profit, so we're going to share this with the owners of Coca-Cola, including stockholders. And so they'll give you a little piece of the profit. So if you have more stocks, they give you more of the profit. If you have fewer stocks, you get less of the profit. A bond is, we talk about this a lot in finance, but where a bond is actually a loan. And so, so if the federal government issues you a bond, you give them money. Basically, you'd be lending money to the federal government and they give you a bond with the promise that at the end of a certain time period, they're going to pay you more money. That's why you're going to give them the bond, because that's why you're going to give them the money for the bond, because at the end, they're going to give you back more money than you initially gave them. So we have different kinds of instruments like this where we're lending money either to companies or to governments. So if it's really short term, it's actually called a bill. Medium term are notes, and then these longer term ones are called bonds. The US government is one of the safest, is considered one of the safest bonds. And so they regularly pay back people when they buy a bond. So the difference between a stock and a bond, we talked about that already. With a stock, you own a piece of the company. With a bond, you're lending someone some money and they're promised to pay you back later. So there are different types of investment vehicles. We have stocks, which we just talked about. And then also we have exchange traded funds. So this is a basket of securities that track a particular segment. So it's similar to an index, or it's tracked like a normal stock. And then mutual funds. So these are professionally managed investments with other investors. So the funds managers then use pooled money to buy securities for the group. So all of these things that we're talking about, they're ways to make a little bit of money grow bigger. And so billionaires are great at this. That's often why they've become great at this. Millionaires are great at this. Upper middle class people are pretty great at it. Middle class people are okay at it, but certainly it's a little bit more difficult, I think, sometimes to understand when you aren't a millionaire and you don't have access to pay people a lot of money to figure it out, which makes it more important that middle class people really figure it out on their own so that they still can invest and watch their money grow. So here's how to start investing your money if you're working and have a little extra money. You can open a brokerage account. and start investing in stocks. Some people really like this, especially it tends to be people who like risk games. So if you like the game Risk, if you like poker, if you like competition in general, these people tend to like investing in the stock market and the risk that comes with it. If you don't like risk, you can invest your money in a much safer way. Oh my gosh, you guys are all upside down. It's pretty funny. So once your funds are placed in a brokerage account, you can buy and sell stocks and mutual funds. And there are lots of companies that can help you. So this is an important piece. So you might have heard of Fidelity or Schwab. You can walk in, you can open an account with a check, or you can make trades. There are options for online brokerages if you're techie and would rather do this online. So again, Fidelity, Schwab, E-Trade. And most national banks have something like this as well. There are also internet-only brokers that cater to with small amounts of money. So like Robinhood and Acorns. And so my niece, who is 15, I think when she was in fourth grade, my sister started putting her money in Acorns so she could, get used to watching money and how it either grows or shrinks depending on the markets. So if we go back to this Coca-Cola example, then you can think about if Coca-Cola does really, really well, then the value of your stock, the little tiny piece of Coca-Cola that you own, it also grows. But if Coca-Cola does really poorly for some reason, then the value of that stock diminishes. It gets a lot smaller. So let's say you put $100 in Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola did really well, then your money might grow to be not just $100, but $115 or $150. It might just grow and grow and grow. If instead Coca-Cola did poorly, your money would shrink. So you wouldn't have $100 anymore. You'd have something less than $100. So any questions? I think we lost our class.
I think we did. I know they were having some technical issues. Oh my goodness. I wish I knew all of this in my younger years. That's some wonderful information. So resourceful. As you know, financial literacy makes, individuals become self-sufficient, and that financial stability is accomplished when we're self-sufficient. So thank you so much for your time and your expertise. We're really grateful for you working with us today.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah. And